Let's start. The Reserve Bank of India, in its report on currency and finance for 1974-75, has indicated that by the middle of 1975, the gap between current demand and available supplies in respect of both consumer articles and investment goods had been considerably reduced, and that the economy had been in a much better shape than at any time since 1971, basing its judgment on the current economic trends. The bank has forecast a rate of growth of 5 to 6% in 1975-76. A summary of the report follows. Much the most significant achievement of the economy during the year 1974-75 within bracket July to June was containment of inflation. The containing price increase of the two preceding years was checked effectively. Despite an increase of only 2% in real national income at the end of June 1975, the wholesale price index for all commodities was only 0.6% higher than a year ago, and this trend has continued in the period subsequent to July 1975. In fact, the index as on November 22, 1975 was actually 6.2% lower than the level a year ago, and the prevailing indications were that of a further decline in prices following the granary of the Kharif harvest stock bearer. The containment of inflationary pressures was brought about essentially by fiscal and monetary policies affecting aggregate demand in the economy, supported by a variety of administrative measures to curb speculative and illegal activities impinging on current prices and price expectations. Monetary demand was restricted in both the public and private sectors. On the fiscal side, there was a massive effort at mobilization of resources accompanied by cuts in non-development expenditures. These were further strengthened by immobilization of part of the additional incomes through compulsory deposits and restrictions on distribution of dividends. In the monetary area, credit expansion was reduced both through restriction of supply of loanable funds and an increase in interest rates. Furthermore, though in terms of agricultural production, 1974-75 was not a particular good year. Market supplies of agricultural commodities benefited from larger imports and the steps taken to curb hoarding of stocks bearer. In the industrial sector, significant improvements in supply of power, coal and steel were evident as a result of increased production as well as better transport based on larger export earnings, better utilization of external assistance and international monetary fund drawings. The economy was also able to sustain larger imports of industrial raw materials and capital equipment. All this resulted in narrowing the gap between current demand and available supplies in recent of both consumer articles and investment goods altogether. By mid-1975, the economy had been in much better shape than at any time since 1971. While the steps taken to curb inflationary pressures have proved successful, generally there have been areas in which demand remained stagnant or declined, giving rise to fears recession in certain quarters in industries such as transport, equipment, consumer durables, steel, jute and cotton textiles. Sluggishness in demand has been evident for some time, and this has resulted in accumulation of stocks or reduced utilization of capacity. This situation derives from a variety of factors. For instance, in the case of cotton textiles, the accumulation of stocks with mills was a consequence of weaknesses in the arrangements for distributing controlled cloth, reduced stock holdings by traders and consumer resistance to unduly high prices of finer varieties. In respect of consumer durables like passenger cars, refrigerators, television sets, air conditioners, and so forth, the dominant element was resistance to higher prices in a situation in which real incomes had registered at best a small increase. The markets for steel, cement, railway wagons, and so forth were affected by inadequate increases in public sector investment in the last 2 years, while the accumulation of stocks in the jute and certain engineering industries derived from declines in export demand. Since the difficulties of different industries were due to different causes, the situation did not warrant adoption of such measures as general reduction in excise duties or liberalization of credit or reduction of interest rates. The balance achieved in regard to the supply and demand for food articles as well as other essential consumer goods was tenuous, and it was clear that any major shift in supply or demand could again generate pressures on these prices. Consequently, steps taken to revive the economy had to ensure that there was no withholding of supply of goods or increase in final consumer prices. For this reason, policies for stimulating industrial activity had to be specific and related to the particular problem affecting production or sales. Basically, the stimulus to larger industrial production has to come from increased investment in both the public and private sectors. The initial moves in this regard have been taken by the government through policies designed to increase public investment under the plan. Stop. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Mera Bharat.